Immigration is a key election issue for many voters living in U.S. states that border Mexico. Arizona is one of the states where elections for governor and the Senate are hotly contested. It's also where many Latin American migrants attempted to enter the U.S. without legal documents. Frank Conchares traveled with a search and rescue team looking for migrants.
Deep in the desert of southern Arizona, we're traveling with a non-governmental organization, the Armadillos, east of a border town called Yuma, 17 kilometers from the Mexican border. The Armadillos is a search and rescue organization made up of volunteers. Many of its members are themselves former migrants. They bring us to a remote U.S. Border Patrol emergency tower. Migrants dehydrated and suffering from the effects of extreme temperatures can hit the red button.
We have reports about some migrants who arrived at these towers and pushed the button, but the Border Patrol never arrived.
Cesar Ortigosa was born in Mexico City and migrated to the United States with his family when he was 15 years old. Now a legal U.S. resident, he shows us a Mexican voting card containing a migrant's name and age. Juan, 27 years old. The smuggler said Juan was no longer able to walk, so they left him out here.
Many times, smugglers give the migrants' family members GPS locations. About 25% of those are correct, and we find someone. The other 75% are false.
The three Armadillo team members spread out. They know they might find a deceased person, so they look for vultures circling overhead. The team arrives at a shallow cave up on a hill. They leave water for anyone who might need it. After searching for most of the day, the Armadillos decide it's time to stop looking for Juan. On the way back, Cesar says he'll call the mother of the missing migrant and tell her they could not find her missing son.
We've come to the Pima County Medical Examiner's office here in Tucson, Arizona, to learn how the remains of deceased migrants are processed into evidence in these cases.
This is the office of Chief Investigator Gene Hernandez. He says each of the red dots on this map represents a person who died in the desert. The medical examiner's office began the database for migrant deaths in the year 2000. Since then, the total number of migrant bodies found in Pima County has surpassed 3,600. Hernandez says it's a rolling humanitarian crisis.
Policy was changing in the United States, and the militarization of the border occurred in the early 2000s, both around the metropolitan areas. And so funneling folks into the Tucson or the Pima County into the Arizona deserts, they figured would cause some number of deaths. And here we are 22 years later, the deadliest point to cross in the United States for migrants.
Sometimes the remains are returned to the migrants' family members in Mexico or Central America.
These are ID cards.
But these lockers contain the personal items that belonged to missing migrants: money, photos, credentials, and religious items. The evidence is here, but their identities remain unknown. Frank Contreras, CGTN, Tucson, Arizona.